welcome to this, our sixth and penultimate episode of NaPoWriMo 2023. I am your host, Bex Sherwood, guiding you through this poetic navigation of words and challenges and all other sorts of fantastical fantasies, etc. If you are joining us here, what a weird place to start, but cool. Welcome in. NaPoWriMo is National Poetry Writing Month. Over the month of April, poets around the world are challenged to write 30 poems in 30 days. And we say that's too many poems. So instead, we do our own remixed version of NaPoWriMo and do 5 poems in 5 weeks. So we are now here. This is the 5th challenge that we're going to be getting into. But before we dive into our wonderful new film poems, I have to introduce the rest of the gang. So please join me in welcoming Kevin Mclean, Mark Gallie, and Katie Ailes.
Hello.
What's up?
We're here. We are here. Another NaPoWriMo. Done.
We're done.
Crazy.
We're done,
that is
people.
so weird. But we'll talk about all of that stuff, how excited we are to be done, what other people have done over NaPoWriMo in next episode. But we still have one final challenge to address. And it was a big challenge. It was a lot to fit into 7 days. So I'm very excited to see how people did, how people feel about it. And this week, what we are looking at is film poetry. It's also known as cine poetry. And there's lots of different directions that it can go in. So let's kick things off, shall we? How did everyone feel about Film Poetry Week?
It was hard, but rewarding.
Okay, good.
If we can say that.
We like rewarding.
Yeah, like I came up with my concept ages ago and I was like, oh, this concept is dope. And then actually making it happen was that was less dope.
I often find that making things is the hardest part of making things.
Ideas are easy.
Who knew?
If I could just stream what I see in my brain, that would be a lot quicker and way
so
easier.
handy.
Putting it
So
down,
handy.
hard.
Get those brain chips sorted, Musk. We're ready for them.
Oh, God. Opt out. But yeah, it was good. It was really, fun and rewarding and challenging and all of those things.
Great.
I think.
Awesome.
I will buck my usual cynicism. I had a blast. This has been my favorite one of the runs so far.
It only took 5 weeks to get Kev to enjoy himself in writing poetry, but here we are. We've made it.
5
No one's
weeks
going to believe you when they say your
rounds
favorite was
of
the
this
last.
Yes.
Yeah. Might have made it easy. Maybe that's why I was so perky about it. No, I mean, you guys will see why I particularly enjoyed Mike in a bit. But yeah, I had a great time. I'm actually pretty stoked with what I made. So yeah.
Mark, how do you feel?
I felt good. Again, like I couldn't get the sort of thing I had in my head there. Because we were doing film poetry, I got in my head that like the film needed to be finished. And I was like, that's not really what the challenge is, in the same way that none of these poems have had to be finished by the end. The film doesn't have to be perfect. So I really like what I've done, but I do not think it is done.
Okay. Well, I think that's totally fine. And I actually agree, because I had a bigger vision for my thing, but lacked the time, money, and utensils to make it happen. So I will explain my vision further when we get to that. But I think that's cool. I think we're going to have a fun wee episode of looking at these new film poems. I'm not going to pick on anyone. Does anyone want to go first or not want to go first?
Yours is good. Don't go first.
I was going to say I don't mind, is what I was going to say.
Okay. Well, no, we're not starting with you, Kev. You're comfortable and happy with yours.
I can get mine out of the way, maybe.
Okay.
So this is. I don't want to give too much context in advance, actually, for this one, apart from saying that it was inspired by a couple of lines from a poet who I really admire and love, and who performed with us recently. So you'll see those lines in the start of the video. And it was really hard to make, but hopefully the concept comes across and is fun. So yeah.
Let's dive in.
Yeah.
How to wear your bare face. First, unsettle it. It will stay in place without being sprayed there. Unpucker your pout and smudge off that plum lipstick. Your mouth is plump and plush enough already. Unline your lips. Let Cupid's bow go slack and loose. You don't have to hit any targets. Dot off the concealer from beneath your eyes. You have nothing to hide. Ease off your coats of mascara by quickly flicking your wrist downwards. Let your lashes relax. Let them be silky and gentle. Next, strip the liquid liner from the edges of your lids. Untattoo that inky rim. Let your waterlines be wet, pink, soft. Now brush off the layers of glittery dust. Rub out the luster of glistening powder. Step out from under that dark shadow. Clean the crimson sheen from your creases. You gleam already. Sweep the shimmer from the inner corners of your lids. They do not need to shine for you to see. Siphon off the highlighter. Fan its flame away from your cheekbones and arches. Now undefine your brows. Brush them back into untamed undergrowth. Let them be expressive, wild, and free. Blot the blush from your cheeks. Buff that bottled rouge back into its tube. You bloom beautifully without it. Next, excavate your face from the layers of contour. You do not need to sculpt yourself into a different shape. Now deconstruct your foundation. Paint off this filter of liquid skin to reveal your features. The constellations of freckles, moles, spots, and scars. Incorrect your colors to unveil the sunset underneath your eyes, the dusky blues and violets. You have seen the fullness of the day, and it's okay to show it. Let the delicate rose petals of your skin flush red, fresh, and glowing. Finally, wipe away the primer. Remove it from your pores. Smooth away this last layer until your face is naked and bare, but not blank, not erased, not an empty canvas, but a complete masterpiece. That's my face.
First of all, you're so pretty.
There are so many bloopers at the end of it where I was trying to do those pretty hair flicks and it was just like it's very hard to be glamorous, but thank you.
That's I mean, it's such a good technique. Like, I mean, it's one of the simplest ways to take a kind of 2-cam thing and make it more is to use the speed to play with that sort of functionality.
It's just 1 cam.
Taking a sort of single cam and like adding more to it. And so like is to play with speed. 2 cam, I meant as in like to a camera.
Oh,
like,
sorry, I thought you meant 2 camera. Homonyms. Sorry.
And so like doing that can add so much to a thing. I know Gallie has done. I really enjoyed previously when he'd done that sort of time lapse one of seeing the area outside his window and kind of over his shoulder and stuff was very cool. This is a good example. I won the game, which was a similar kind of thing, and it's really interesting the effects you can get out of it. So I'm just going into film stuff. I think one thing I would suggest if you were to reshoot it or if you're going to do something like that with time lapse is that every movement will seem so much bigger. And so what you'll notice a lot in those sort of makeup tutorials is they hold overly still so that when they are doing bits, even like picking things up, they hold and pick the thing up and bring it and then apply it. Because as soon as you do this, even a little bit, it's like...
It's wild. I was trying so hard not to move, but you're like, it's such a weird, stiff way of doing your face. Yeah. It's interesting. But even then, I did move a ton while I was doing it. Yeah.
So yeah, just a thing, if you're going to play with time lapses, whether it's slowing it down, speeding it up, whatever, bear in mind how that will affect those kind of movements and stuff. But I thought you did a really good job with it. I actually think the kind of very jittery, not super jittery, obviously they're you play with the pace through it, but the bits that are more jittery, more sped up, that it adds to the sort of frenetic pace of doing it. Like there is that like the amount of movement it requires, the back, the forth, the this item, like it layers it up, almost like the makeup you're wearing.
Form and function. Who knew?
Yeah. So, and I really enjoy, in terms of like content of the piece, I really enjoy the it's a really simple but effective technique in poetry, is to use like descriptive words, either like for things that don't normally apply, or in the reverse, like dotting off the thing, in what was it, not inconsistency or colors, but like
incorrect your colors, because I'm using color corrector. So I was like, how do you do the negative of that? I guess incorrect your colors. Like,
and the fact that it is not necessarily a word, that is not a way you would be deemed proper word, it makes it more interesting and more fun. And so you use a lot of that in there, obviously, like the reversing of those words, and even when they don't fit quite right, it makes it, there's an interest in they're those words that catch you, right? They stand out because it's not just this flowing thing, it kind of pulls in. So there's lots of what you do normally, which is like that, like there's a line in there where you're going crack your foundation, or
deconstruct your foundation.
And there's
so
obviously the double meaning to that and stuff, which is so in your wheelhouse. That more kind of abstract use of language, where it is those kind of inverted words and stuff is a bit something you use a bit more sparingly. And so I really enjoyed it in this.
Yeah, I enjoyed this so much. I've seen a lot of like makeup tutorials online. It's crazy. But where a lot of them are like, it's all forwards. You're putting on the makeup. You're like turning into like, you start as this and you end up as this, and it's like the finished product. Obviously, wear whatever makeup you want. Everything's great. We don't need to get into all those caveats. Everyone knows how we feel about those things. We're in the left. Whoa, crazy. But like, there's a lot of that, and then there's also a lot of like how I take my makeup off videos of you like removing process. And I really enjoyed because that would have been, if I had, if you had said to me, oh, I'm doing a makeup poem about not wearing makeup, I would have done it as like just me filming me taking off my makeup. But actually the process of putting on makeup is like so delicate and takes practice and a lot of time and a lot of money and commitment. So it's really cool to see it just being that the video's like in reverse. It was like such a creative way to do that, with very much keeping it within the source and keeping it as like this idea that at either end it's great, and it doesn't matter, you don't have to wear makeup, you don't have to not wear makeup, like it's this I just,
because that was really important to me. Like when I first had the concept, I started drafting, and the tone just felt wrong, because I was drafting stuff that was like, don't wear makeup, be bare. And I was like, I don't feel that. I wear makeup a lot. Like I really enjoy the artistry of it. But equally, I think it's an important message to say, like, you can wear your face bare, as which today feels almost like an act of vulnerability. Like I'm not wearing any makeup in this video, and I'm like, bah! It feels really raw and strange.
You're like, what? Sorry.
Bah! Like that. Yeah, it's a technical term. Learned it in my PhD.
That's the noise I make when I wander into Boots to pick up a new mascara. Just go after the bah! Oh, you need this.
But no, thanks guys. It was interesting to make. So
I think it's good that it's like not an indictment of makeup. I think is an important thing.
No, because even just to like round off me, even someone that hasn't seen a lot of like those sort of tutorials and things, it still felt very familiar. And so like with the subject and the way of filming it, it still felt like, even though it's something I've seen maybe a handful of times, I was like, I like sort of know where I am and knew the space that it was sort of addressing, and it brought you in. So it's like on those other ends of the spectrum that it's like, it's not like, as someone who knows very little about makeup, like it was the thing I was like, I know absolutely nothing. That I felt educated at the end of that. I was like, damn, like,
that's a lot.
So yeah.
It is. I wore more makeup for that video than I've ever worn in my life. I had so much crap on my face. Oh my
Kate,
god!
When she was making it, she was like, "So I'm gonna start with lots of makeup on." I was like, "Just remember, like, do like a lot, go panto, because like your idea of what a lot of makeup is not like a lot of makeup. And even in this, I don't think
that's not a lot of makeup.
I don't think that
which is
that
crazy.
freaking
caked on.
Yeah. I think you could have a much more extreme version of that. Obviously, people don't need to get into your weird thing with face paint and having stuff on your face, but like one thing to consider, just while we're talking about film poems and stuff as well, is that like the camera is not as good as an eye. Any camera as good as it is, right? And so like you need to compensate for certain things. It's why if you are on TV, like everyone wears makeup on TV. Like it is standard, because like the light affects you in a different way. The cameras pick things up in different ways. And so you consider like how you want to present yourself and test. So like one thing Kate did before was she took footage of herself in the makeup that she wanted and then looked at it back, and that gives her an ability to see like, do I need to go harder, do I need to go less, how is the light going to affect it when you put it on and stuff. So if you're doing anything where a specific look is required, then you have to test that first, especially when something like this with like a makeup tutorial where there is like there's almost like a framing to it, right? Like what Gallie was talking about, where you can visually cue that something is what it is. So that extreme close-up shot, that blank wall canvas, that brightly lit from behind the camera, it would often be like a ring light in these sort of makeup tutorials.
Yeah, I didn't have a ring light, unfortunately.
But the more of those little touches you can apply, it tells someone what it is before it even starts. Like when that framing comes up and you see a very heavily made up person with very little separation between camera and wall or whatever the backdrop is, and that kind of very starkly bright lighting with that very close up frame, immediately, you know, you've seen that a million times on TikTok, and there's a reason. It's because the most successful versions of it were that, and then everyone else does that, and then it becomes the way to do that thing. So if you're shooting something, especially that is like a parody, like kind of Kate has here, then like think about those visual trappings of what you're trying to emulate, and make sure you can put as many of those in there as possible.
Absolutely. So yeah, shout out to Perry Johnson, our dear pal and filmmaker, for helping me with that, because there was a lot of technical stuff involved, and he was awesome. So yeah, but yeah, thanks guys for the kind words. Cheers.
All good.
I might volunteer myself to jump on next. Just because there was some of the stuff that Kev spoke about. Feet wet. Well, there was stuff that Kevin sort of mentioned there about the idea of filming and like thinking about the film of the space, because like, so the sort of mentioned that mine isn't done. Obviously, I had like ideas of what I wanted to do with mine, and essentially my film here, all the budget has gone into the special effects budget. That'll become very clear.
Special effects.
But the actual like filming of it, just because of like space and stuff, I toyed with doing things with like, I didn't have time to get like a green screen or like move around. So the actual spacing with the poem I've chosen was sort of more difficult. I would want to ideally add maybe like a bit of like story lore preamble to it as such, but it's one of those things where like doing anything with it, it's one of those, like 1 minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour kind of things, like outside of a week, I could probably spend again too much time on other things, but like mine is using a poem from this year that we've done on this cast. It was the performance piece, which while I did my best, I actually think this is probably, this way I've done it is the way that poem should be done. So let's see what you think. Cool.
This is the poem, this is the way, this is the method to keep at bay. In theory, this should work, in practice, nightmares lurk. Let us be safe. These are the words, this is the spell, these are the tools we use to tell. With precision we write, with text we bind the night. Let us be safe. This is the form, this is the shape, this is the frame to prevent escape. Through the lines we contain, through structure we remain. Let us be safe. This is the chant, this is the charm, This the command to do no harm. By sound we invoke, by silence bonds are broke. Let us be safe. Hear the magic, hear the pact, hear the last climactic act. Parts of one, sum of all, right complete. Hear the call. We will be safe.
That's amazing. Your poor flatmates.
Because I can only film that bit for that film at night. Every other room like just comes through the curtains. So that's been like late in the evening, just in the other room. It probably has been quite concerning for me.
Yeah,
they should feel safe. Clearly, obviously,
because it took me 3 nights to get it right.
About that. There's nothing daunting and terrifying in that at all.
You did that 3 nights in a row?
The first night when I filmed it was just way too dark, and the thing then I had a better idea for like the lighting and the way I sort of wanted to frame it and where I needed to be. The second night was grand, but I did the choreography wrong and didn't notice till, because it was like I filmed these like 11, 12 at night. So I was like, cool, got it. Next morning, like, no. So then the third night sort of did it again with a bit more knowledge. So a fourth night might have been even better for the thing. But yeah, like the actual like space and things, I would do differently for things, and I would probably still, given more time and money, do more to the graphic thing. But
did you not get to make Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness in a week? Oh, Gallie, come on, get your shit together.
So class mark. Cool. I mean, first of all, love the poem anyway, which we've already spoken about. Shout out to our previous performance poetry episode. But this is like totally how I envision magic in my head when we're like playing RPGs. We play RPGs, did we mention? And like, when I'm being a big nerd and thinking of magic, this like glowy purple, like these like bright things, these like movements are exactly like what's in my head. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy right now. This is really class mark.
So from like a technical point of view in filming, there are kind of 2 things you can do, right? One where we've looked at what Kate has done, and she has done a lot of that with the camera itself, right? So that is the frame rate at which she's recording. That is the setup and creating that like a verisimilitude, right? Where she is creating a familiar setting or backdrop that you understand the parameters of. Whereas what Gallie has done is lean heavily into like the after effects and what you can do with the piece of footage once you have it, which I quite like as an example for what we're talking about here, Gallie, where you have something fairly stripped back, right? You are in your front room shooting, and you've used pretty much the natural lighting state that exists, so you've had to wait for night rather than using anything to blanket that out. Like even in here, like this is daytime, but I shut this and I turn on a light over here to get a more like consistent light quality.
Yeah, every room in my house has this level of bleed through. These curtains are closed for viewers' references if they cannot tell that.
So those are things you're kind of always going to get, right? Whereas like what Gallie's done is done his best with the situation he can there, and then use things in After Effects. So like those kind of like apertures, right, where it's created an almost border around it that he plays with. He's used he's the color grade and like played with the exposure levels post, outside of what the camera is doing to compensate for that. And then he's like used obviously, After Effects, I guess, Adobe After Effects.
I don't think there were any special effects on that.
No.
That's the mark.
Just the eldritch nature.
Oh no, I can't
Gallie.
finish the thing, and then I'll tell you the fun fact about those graphics. Yeah.
So it's a thing to consider is like what your thing requires, right? Can you achieve everything you need to achieve in a sort of live action setting with the things you require, right? Or were you going to need some sort of additional effect on it afterwards. And so understanding what those tools are and kind of playing around with editing software, which is something Mark has done a lot of, is then it gives you a better understanding of what that software can achieve. And so when you're shooting your thing, you can shoot with that in mind. It's almost the difference of how we talk between like page poetry and stage poetry, right? When you're creating a stage poem, you're already thinking about the things you can add to it. When you're thinking of a page poem, you're thinking about like how it is going to look on a page. And so here, Katie is thinking about how that is going to actively look in the camera, whereas Mark is already thinking like, it doesn't really matter what I get in the camera as long as I get me. It's all the stuff I can do after it that's important anyway. So it's just two schools of thought.
I will add to that, because you're bang on, but with that mindset of like, it's that thing you're saying, like, shoot with editing in mind, but editing cannot fix everything and make getting it right in the filming to give yourself way more. You can give yourself more freedom in the edit if you get it right, then you actually have way less if you get it wrong. Like I said,
it was the other thing I was going to say, do multiple takes, right?
Yeah.
Like you were saying, you screwed up the choreography and had to do the setup all again and pull out the camera and do all the stuff. Like, even if you think you have got it bang on first time, nailed it, this doesn't need done again, do it again. Yeah. Because like there will be something, some little glitch, some little sound, some little thing you didn't notice or weren't aware of in the moment. What does it take you to do 3 takes, right? Look at Katie's. If she had done like that is a kind of, you really need to make sure you're getting 1 take of that, right? Because the level of setup. But like if you need to do all of that again, that's why we're like, Katie was important to do test footage to get that stuff right, to know how it was going to feel, do a little bit of it and then extrapolate that out. Or in like Gallie's case, do multiple takes of just that choreography, do it 3-4 times, so then you don't have to pull out your whole setup again.
The fun fact I was going to tell you is that the runes, as they were, it's not the entirety of the poem, but that is the poem changed into a runic font. So the first four stanzas are the poem, but they are just changed into a runic font. And then the 4 bits that appear are like the words that they appear on. So the full poem isn't there now, but like there's really lore in the spell. Like,
also a thing to consider is music and what music can do to
the sound.
That was
I was gonna say I've been doing bits and pieces where it's either performing with or just listening to and learning from like David Devereaux and Tin Can Audio, and the sound design of a thing can really like amplify to things there, like in the addition to music. So sorry.
I mean, we talk about it all the time in terms of like, say you're just doing a 2 camera, as in reading to the camera. If you're doing a 2 camera thing, right? You can shoot it on a decent like phone and the picture quality will be fine. If you get a professional microphone, the difference that will make is massive. Audio is this kind of, it's the easiest thing to change to make your stuff seem more professional. It's very expensive to buy a top of the range camera with top of the range lenses and learn how to use that properly. It's much easier to get a good microphone. Like you'll see even journalists and stuff who record a lot of things on their phones, they will have a quick plug-in little boom mic that just gives them that little edge over what a phone camera can do. So that'd be the first big thing I would say. If you're looking how you can improve just in general, like what you're reading and putting out there, your sound quality is the easiest and first thing to fix. And then like, add music. If you're doing poems and you're just kind of reading them to a camera, that's very still, it's very stationary, it's very not basic isn't the right word, but it's just, that is all you're relying on. Whereas if you can just put some music in it, it informs the emotional tone of the piece, the theme of the piece. It brings a bit of extra sort of creative interest to it. It changes a lot. So picture Gallie's thing with just his words, without any of that like music, and it will drastically alter the piece.
And with audio, you can do, if you get a good microphone, or you could do what I do if you can't get the good audio the way you did it, steer into the bad thing, make it reverb as balls. It's a bit of a, like, what a good bit of thing is, if you are stuck with certain things, sometimes steer into the if it's not going to look right, steer into it, make it
our return to firm project. Right. When we did during the sort of lockdowns, We knew artists were going to be recording separately from us, and we knew that most people wouldn't have like a really good mic setup. So we told them, just do it on your phone. And then we applied filters and things like that to make everything sound like a kind of old school answering phone, like answering machine. And that like equalized it. So when someone sent us really good audio recordings, we were like, actually, if you could go back and record this on your phone, that would
make it
better,
a bit crap. That would work
more
better.
Consistent. So you operate with what your base level is, because then you know where you're at, rather than try to achieve something super high end when you don't have the tools to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, Mark. I don't feel safe, but you know, whatever.
But you should. We're all safe now.
Yeah. The more you say
you're
that,
spooky man.
Thanks. Love you guys.
So moving from one spooky nerd, Kev, do you want to go? Do you want me to go? We're both spooky nerds. Yeah, okay.
Nerds
Why don't you go? And then I can tell you about what I wanted to do what I actually did.
So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with I had the idea. It was Katie prompted it. Right back when we were kind of going over, when we were talking about what the topics were going to be for NaPoWriMo. Kate was like, oh, you'll have that in the bag. You can just do this. And I was like, I can just do that. And I was very, very
I was
pleased.
amazed you hadn't thought of it before. So,
yeah. I was like, I'm going to have to film a whole bloody thing and stuff. And then, no, I can just do what I love to do instead of that. So this is the poetic guide to Minecraft. Punch trees, make tools, build a dirt house, die, punch trees, resupply, try to survive at least one night, go mine, begin to delve, encounter mobs, run away, save yourself, die, punch trees, take to the sea, find a sunken ship, loot it, run out of breath, start to drown, hand, die, punch trees, climb a mountain, find iron, make armor to try on, risk a cave, be brave, fight everything that comes your way, go deeper, bring a shield to tackle creepers, let torchlight lead you into the unknown, so far from home. No room for mistakes. Venture down into the deep slate. You're doing great. In the darkness, riches await. Precious diamond. The key to success. The ore survival relies on the best way to dress. Collect enough to replace all your iron stuff, plus a little more for enchanting galore. You can't have enough. Head back to the surface. Renewed passion and purpose. With these tools, you're ready to get building and farming, a journey just starting, and you have so many options. You could travel the forests in search of adventure, take to the seas and find buried treasure, take root in a village and trade at your leisure, see the end or the nether, whatever's your pleasure. Or maybe you'll end up just punching trees forever.
So good. So good.
Wow. Amazing. Kev.
You freaking smashed it.
This is dope. We got to get this up on TikTok. This is real dope.
I was fairly pleased with myself. I got to play Minecraft for a day.
All that footage is yours. Like, you devised that and played the game to get all of that and recorded it and wrote the crazy.
It's a really clever way to do the thing of taking like a game footage or taking footage from your screen. It's a thing obviously that there's not the best versed in it, but obviously that exists in a very big way with things like Twitch and everything, and streams in general. There's a very clever way to do that, and I can't tell if you're really good at Minecraft or really bad at Minecraft watching that video. So well done.
It's an interesting one to do, because again, like, right, it's like using the tools at your disposal. Like, it is much easier to get screen record than 1,500 quid camera. Like,
Yeah.
just that is true. And again, something like audio, right? You can get a good mic to record your voice over it. The music that I used is Pigstep, which is an in-game disc. Like, you can use that for free. There's nothing in there that like you couldn't access at home. Something like Minecraft, the very idea of it is a sandbox, right? You can do whatever you like in it. Obviously there are big chunks of it where I'm playing in survival, right? Because you can see I'm getting the achievements and things like that. But then there are bits of it where I jump into creative and fly around. I'm using shaders, but nothing that's like that costs me anything. So yeah, it's a very easy way to do it. It's why like Minecraft is such a huge thing on YouTube, right? Because like anyone can kind of jump in and make some stuff. Being able to switch camera angles and stuff from like see yourself in it, like jumping in front of a dirt house, to being sort of first person is useful. And then it's just hitting the beats that you want to do. So I just wrote the poem. And like, if you don't know, if you've never played punch trees, if you've never played Minecraft, the first thing you have to do is punch trees. That's like, it's a staple.
Yeah.
That's kind of the.
You literally can't get any further until you punch a tree.
And so that kind of loop, right? And so that became the refrain. Easy peasy. I'll do punch trees, build up a little, die, do a different thing, build up, die, do a little thing, build up, die, and then that gives you your nice closed piece, right? Where you think you've done cool stuff and you still die. So it was a nice, easy thing to set up. I made a couple of mistakes because I have a mod that has my like coordinates up here, and I realized halfway through I'd had it on the whole time and then turned it off, and so one half of the thing, the footage is slightly scaled in. My shaders
it
don't
ruined the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
So I just turned the shaders off, and then there's a lot of bits where it's in real time. Sometimes I speed it up, so it's just about playing with what you want to in there. But once you have the footage and you don't have to actually worry about that, it gives you a lot more time to be able to focus on like what you want to play around with in the edit and do with it. And if I went, I've not done this thing, I missed this big bit out that connects to the poem, well, then I can fire up Minecraft and take 2 minutes to get that footage back. No elaborate setup on my part. So
that's so great. I have these intense visions of you going through mines hoping a skeleton will kill you and getting killed by like zombies and other stuff instead, and just being like, God damn it, where's this skeleton? I need to die by a skeleton.
It was really hard to get the creeper at the end to kill me, because I kept getting a creeper and then running into the house, and then I would run out of the house and it'd be gone, and then I'd like chase it down and then like pull it back and stuff, and then when I finally got it, it blew up the whole front of the dirt house but didn't kill me. And I was like, so I had to rebuild the dirt house and wait for it all to turn back to grass and everything, and then get a different creeper and lure him back. And then I was like, that's why when it kills me, you see I'm already on like 4 hearts, because I jumped off a high thing to bring my health down, so it would definitely kill me.
Minecraft creepers are the truest villain. Even when you want them to kill you, they won't do it the way you want them to 100%.
Do.
Oh,
wow.
Well done.
A great piece as well,
so
Kev.
Good.
Like, it's so smart to use resources that you have. Like, that's just smart in any sense of the case. But the poem's really good, and it's really accurate, and it feels like it literally is a poetic guide to Minecraft. You did exactly what you said you were going to do. 10 out of 10. I changed nothing. It's great.
And I think there's something there as well about like poetry is often framed as something that is like such a high art form and really inaccessible and ivory tower stuff. And like, I love
no
it.
One Kev does
when...
it.
But I think like both of us this week, sorry, Mark, I'm not going to include you in this comment, but like we both twisted stuff that is like really common and accessible, like makeup tutorials online and like let's plays online. I guess there's like D&D stuff online.
It's not my fault you don't come into it.
Everyone casting eldritch magic in their front
the eldritch horror zones,
You don't do that?
In the 5 o'clock zone.
If I opened up an eldritch magic stuff like Emporium and Guide, people would come. I maintain that.
I think it's a good point that Kate makes, like especially when you're people like us, right, who we write a lot. Like if you're just it becomes that thing of how many ways can you say those rallying cries that you want, and how many different ways can you talk about those sorts of things, like, and it can become quite heavy, kind of constantly having to do very emotional pieces, and it's a thing that's talked about a lot in the scene. And like, I enjoy writing poems about things I enjoy rather than things that make me sad. And like, I think there is room for both, right? It's, you know, sometimes very cathartic to write a very emotional piece or something like that. But I think there needs to be a spectrum of both, right? Like, Bex, it's almost interesting that we have kind of switched a bit this NaPoWriMo, where you've written more personally and emotionally, and I've kind of, all of my stuff this month is, other than maybe the collab, whatever, but it's all been about kind of my pop interests, right? Like my hobbies and things like that, other than maybe the first week with the sort of school thing. But I think there should be space for that. And especially when I'm just trying to write for the, okay, I need a film poem, then my brain doesn't go to, I'll write a poem about something very emotional or very intense. It goes to, like, you know, Minecraft.
Yeah. Well, speaking of not emotional or intense, my
Ending it on a
poem
high
this
note,
week-
yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to explain a little bit about what my concept is and where I sort of wanted to get to at the end point, but I couldn't. It's doable, not a week, so it's not impossible. But yeah, I just didn't have. It wasn't a case of like I didn't know how to do it. I know how to do it. I just didn't have the time and the resources to get it done this week. Hopefully I can do it at a later date because I think it would be really cool. And I was really inspired by the film that Yiz made, the one we made, IAmLoud Productions made with Glenn Fittich, which had the projector using that on a face and things like that of that nature, and you know, messing with those projections against stuff. And I was like, that sounds really cool. I would love to have a poem where it's filmed with me reading the piece as stuff is being projected on and behind me as I read it. So while I didn't get to film me doing the projector part, I did get to make the what would be projected, and that's what I'm gonna present today. So going back to an oldie but a goodie, here is Dear Disney.
Yes.
Yes.
Dear Disney, I'm not sure what Elsa to do. I'm trapped, scared, frozen even, and I don't know if you'll take me seriously, but I just can't let it go. See, Disney, I'm past 25. I followed your advice, didn't tell lies, kept my nose the same size, wasn't so into wishing on stars, but I kept it real, boy. I can't brother bear the fact that I feel betrayed like Simba. Deception, disgrace. You lied to me right to my face. You told me someday my prince would come. So I've kissed my fair share of frogs, probably kissed some toads too along the way. They just want to put the wind in my willows. I'm trying to be brave, but looking for a hero is like searching for Atlantis or finding Nemo. I had a dream. I had a dream that all I'd need to do is sing, but oh, my poor, unfortunate soul. I didn't know my future was more savage than Gaston being nominated for a Nobel Prize. I'm hypnotized, like Mowgli in the jungle, dropping my standards like Woody when Andy's coming. I know these movies inside out. I make Peter Pan jokes so niche they never land. I'd go Jafar to say I'm an expert. I don't know what I've done wrong. I just want a man with no Jack Skeletons in his closet. A Prince Charming. Someone truly incredible. Maybe I just need to get into a new groove. Seek someone out who has the bare necessities. A Baymax will drive me wild like in Cars. Not in Cars 2. On reflection, I don't need a man. Call me Quasimodo, cause I've got a hunch. I'm not gonna follow the lead of Moana and Merida. I'll make some friends on the other side. That's right, Cruella. I'll be the evil queen, a true diva of the royal scene. It can be a whole new world. Who knows how far I'll go? Disney, I gave you a chance. I wanted to be your guest, but here I am, watching Shrek, because I've moved on to somewhere where the dream works.
Yes.
Yes, Bex. It's so good.
I'm glad you'd like
Oh,
it. So,
beginning with panning down on the Disney thing with the clouds and ending with panning up through the clouds for the DreamWorks.
thank you. Yeah, I kind of felt like because I couldn't achieve what I really wanted to this week, I really wanted to focus in on what I could control, which was the editing. So I was very careful, and I it's actually so funny that we ended on me, because a lot of the tips that we gave were things that I used and applied. Like I do probably probably one of the least amounts of like editing. I definitely do the least amount of like film work stuff of all of us. So it's not really my comfortable space, but I really wanted to focus on like, I wanted the sync up of when I use exact lines like poor unfortunate souls and have a dream and stuff to all really sync up well. So I did a few takes and I took the best ones and I spent a lot of time putting pieces together, and I made a shot list of all the different clips that I could use for different stuff. And yeah, it was really fun to just like, I really want to watch all of these Disney movies now. But it was
So
really
do
fun
I.
yeah, it was really fun to like animate. Sorry that we've now got a copyright disclaimer on the video probably, but whatever.
What's the music you used?
It's just it's like a license-free music that I found. So I went and trowed through.
They shouldn't be able to copyright claim it because it's significantly altered. Like there's no sound. If you were just doing
Disney,
clips of it.
no. No, so yeah, I and so hopefully you can now all visualize like what I mean by like I want to be there and have that being like projected on it, and then it's like very, me reading it would need to be in time for the filming and stuff like that, so it would be more technically difficult, which is why I was like I didn't want to execute it poorly. I would rather do this to show it and then be able to explain what my vision is and to go and do that later. And I think that is also a good tip for film poems. If you have an idea and you currently can't do that, don't do it. And you can just go for it and do it and use what you have. Or like if you have a big vision for it, save it until you can facilitate that and like find people to help you make that vision more of what you want. So you're all going to be getting a call soon so that we can film that proper.
But you've demonstrated a good point on top of that, though. Is like if you have an idea that you can't execute to the next bit, that doesn't mean that you can't do up to a certain point. And let's say you've done up to that, and I think even as because of that, you've thought of very specifically like timing is the correct footage, the moments and beats and everything else. So then that's only going to be better as an on top of that. Whereas I think if you're going, I want to get, if you did the projection part first, you'd be thinking less about what footage is going, and that footage can keep informing. And then so that'll be why you can't do the bit you wanted to at this point, like similar with me, but you can get up to the point that you can get to. And then that work's already done. You don't have to go, I'd have to do all this. You've done it while the idea and the passion's fresh. That good advice, and so solidly done, even without the projection.
Thank you.
The thing I find really cool about it as well is you have changed it to fit the medium. So this would be a much less enjoyable thing to watch if it was delivered at the pace at which you normally deliver that poem, which works very well for the stage because it creates this kind of like pacey, it's almost like, just very high tempo, very energetic piece where you're trying to catch the puns. Whereas this, because that's gone anyway, because you're getting the puns because there's literally a visual representation of each pun. So why try and keep that thing that like is essential to that spontaneity and that kind of like re-listenability of it. Re-listenability, that's probably not a word. But instead shift the tempo so it becomes something much more thematically like a Disney song, this more flowy kind of fits the piece of music perfectly, right? And then allows each piece of footage to not feel like a sort of shutter speed thing, but instead have this nice kind of dreamlike flow to it, which is kind of what you're trying to achieve. Which again would work much better with the projection and stuff like that, and allow, I think even if you were doing the projection, I would even have more bits where there is like instrumental music where the poem gives out, and you do more dynamic visual stuff, because I wouldn't do one angle of you just with the projections. I would have loads of different stuff going on.
Can't wait for you to direct this now, Kev. I've given you this idea. You're welcome. Here's some free work for you, friend.
But those shifts really work, and that change in approach and tempo really works well. And like your editing's tight, especially like the joke, really like the Not in Cars 2, right? Like it is surprising how hard that is to do. To be like music stop, black screen for a bit, kick back in, right? In your head you go, that's easy, you just delete that bit of footage, and you're like, no, the timing of it, how long that gap is, how long the audio has to come out and back in, and so like it all has to be accounted for, and that's
when I did the music cut, I was like, okay, but when it comes back in, it needs to not be on just the point that it would have been. It needs to be on like a swell to bring back that momentum that I cut from underneath people. So yeah, I mean, I tried to. I'm glad you all like it, because I really felt when I was coming into this, I was like, oh, I feel like I've probably spent really long time, but have done the least in terms of what I actually wanted.
So cool.
But yeah, I mean, you can't. How do you judge poems? You know, more on that later.
Yeah,
just
really
a good example of using stuff you can access, right?
Yeah.
Found footage, right? If you can get access to those movies, then you can steal a little clip from each of them. You know what I mean? That's easy.
Fair use, etc. Yeah. So I'm glad you like it. Yeah. So maybe we'll see more. I mean, it's also a poem that I don't tend to perform anymore, so then I kind of wanted to give it this new lease of life in a different way that I could still use it and could basically go. I know that lots of people really like the piece. Obviously it's punny, it's silly, it's fun, it's Disney, you know, so lots of people very much enjoy it, which is great, but it doesn't like totally fit in a lot of like the sets that I'm doing at the moment. It's one that I found myself doing less and less, which doesn't mean I'm retiring or anything. It just means that like it's less relevant to I think when I had fewer poems, I did it a lot more, but now I've got more variety. So it's nice to be able to like repurpose something that people really enjoy in a way that feels more like progressed from when I first wrote the poem. So yeah, it's fun. Wow.
Awesome. Oh, guys, you all smashed
Everyone
it.
did so great.
Yay for film week.
Yeah, so did you.
We all smashed it.
We all smashed it. And
Go
I bet
squad.
all of you at home are smashing it too. We've seen so many people writing every day, which is crazy and also makes us look bad, so how dare you. But we've seen loads of people writing every day and producing like amazing pieces. So we don't have a challenge for next week. We're done. We finished it. We girl bossed Too Close to the Sun, and now all of our poetry challenges are done. But we're not going to just leave it off there. That seems a bit gross and lame. We'll be back next week, and we're going to wrap up this NaPoWriMo. We're going to talk about our high points, our low points. We're going to share some work from some other poets that we're huge fans of. There will be more plugs. So do stick around for all of those wonderful things. If you're looking for more poetic content to fill your time, then our YouTube channel is a great place to go. Second only to our wonderful Patreon. For £5 a month, you get on-demand access to like a whole bunch of fringe shows, all of our shows from this season, all of our shows from last season. It's like a lot. It's like many hours. It's probably longer than
spent a lot of time editing it. Please validate my existence.
Please validate Mark's time and the value of editing. But it's all there for you for as little as £5 a month. And if you're feeling extra special and you want to treat yourself, then why not spend £10 a month and join our writing club? You get all of those things I just mentioned, all of that on demand, early access, etc. But you also get to come along to our monthly writing workshops and join our Discord, where people have been sharing the wonderful NaPoWriMo poems that we're going to be talking about next week, who have been giving advice on how to do things. If you're entering our Loud Poets 2023 Slam series, you could go to the writing club and get some advice from other poets. Some of the people who won their slams are in our writing club, which is dope. So thank you everyone who's entered so far. Our next slam heat, you can find us up in Inverness on the 13th of May. If you want something a little bit sooner, why not come to our next open mic, which is on the 8th of May at the Kilderkin. And our triumphant showcase will be on Friday, the 12th of May at the Scottish Storytelling Centre. It's going to be amazing. We're probably going to sell out again, so you should probably get your tickets. I think this has been such a tremendous episode. We've shared so many poems already, so we're just going to call it there and say good night and goodbye, and we will see you next Sunday. Take it easy. Bye.
It's done. It's done.
And
Goodbye.
cut.